All right, so welcome back to all the high vibrational beings that resonate with my channel, my story, my truth, my testimonial, my timeline. And we're going to be continuing off of the last one. If you've been following along in chronological order, if not, just a quick recap. I'm expressing and talking about my timeline, my truth, my awakening, and uh, consciousness awakening. That's what I was trying to say. Um, journey. Gonna be maybe a rough one, this message. Just kidding. Um, maybe, I don't know. So anyways, I am trying to really focus so much right now on trying to connect with my higher self, the highest version of myself and my timeline that I am trying to attain to. And while I bust through some unreleased fears and things like that, such as speaking in public, speaking to more than one person, just communicating in general from a person whose throat chakra was closed all her life, due to having to do that for survival mode. So this is the timeline of a chosen light worker who was soul signed a contract to be born into a very karmic narcissistic family dynamic, very toxic, many generational traumas and curses to break, and have had this awakening, knock, 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 initially about 27 years ago, but have been solid at this, dedicated, not letting the obstacles get in the way, less and less as in the past 7 years. So this has been a total of 27-year journey from somebody who was fighting addictions and codependencies, which is an addiction. And surviving through all the abuses and neglect and betrayals, as you have been being raised by narcissists, that are very, very unhealed, very karmic. There's just trauma upon trauma, and trying to find your inner strength through all the obstacles. So these last 7 years, I have had many obstacles when I finally said, enough is enough. I'm not letting anything get in the way anymore of this awakening, because that's what I had unconsciously done the first 20 years. Is unconsciously, something would happen and it would just kind of throw me off for so long, because I could feel like it felt like it was outside forces along with what I hadn't released in myself. But of course, when you're around a chosen, you're around a lot of unconscious, unawakened beings that are trying to keep you down in their low vibration. So anytime you have an epiphany or a thought about something, they automatically rip that away from you, right? So that was the environment. That was the frequency that I was raised in and had known for 40 years, until I really started awakening. And that's when I this is my timeline, is when I started that journey. I actually do start it all the way back to 27 years ago, because there was moments of ooh, aha, and big huge tower moments, dark nights of the soul. There could have been moments of where I could have tried to awaken sooner had I seen things different, but I think I'm in the emergency pull switch area because, man, I've been dragging my feet. Unconsciously, I have been dragging my feet, and the universe has taken me to the last minute saying, okay, bitch, it's time to wake up. Like, you don't want to see it off of this last thing? All right, we got another one coming for you. So this has been my story about my obstacles and how I've overcome them, and how I intuitively did this, which I ended up finding out was my superhero power, the power that I know how to do innately. I was just doing and have always been doing. And I was, rationalizing, wow, that's how I've known all these things. But not noticing after being in this understanding for a good 7 years now, can see it, all the way back though, that this is not a known skill. Everybody can learn it. And that's what I've become to understand is that is what my purpose is to help teach those that have had to experience similar timelines that were similar to mine. Not the same context, but maybe similar, but, general, types of struggles, level of struggles. Being in a certain frequency for an extended amount of time, it takes longer to come out of that. Think about it like a relationship. If you've been in a relationship for a year versus 10 years, you'll get over it a lot sooner. The person that only was in it for a year will get over it a lot sooner than the person who was in it for 10 years. Same concept, right? So for a person like myself, where it took me 40 years before I was not going to let anybody else's any outside judgment or opinions try to get in my way. But what that meant back then is I had to, what I didn't know was called hermiting, but I had to hermit, and the universe made sure that I did that. And so part of my story is about this con man, and that was the last part of it, that I had survived and escaped and survived. Can be a survivor speaking about the story and speak on how what I dealt with. So for those that might be dealing with it, to understand what you need to do to get out of it. Because it's actually much easier than we can believe during those moments of fear, coming from the life and the environment and the soul contracts that our frequency and our collective has decided to sign. We have to overcome that. So going through this journey has been, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. Give me a minute. I'm going to pause. Okay, so the last part that of the timeline where I last left off was when I had just I had received a DUI in this last one. I had, left one town to go to another, and that's where I got it. I was trying to finish up this probation. And the reason I speak about all that and then the jail time is because for me, I want other people to know that just because those things have happened, don't let the stigma of the unawakened and the unawakened just keep you into your shame or guilt, because once you understand why you were doing what you did, and most likely it was due to wanting to numb out because you weren't allowed to be who you were, and which is painful. That's very painful. And because that's the big reason that I realized why people that commit suicide, my opinion, do it, is because they can't be the reason that they're meant to be here. So screw this. We're going to discontinue this ride, and we're going to have to hop back on for another, unfortunately, unless you learn some of the things that I've learned. But yeah, so I really want to say that for myself, that was a huge leveling up when I was able to understand that I didn't have to carry that shame or guilt for all that anymore, because there were, I don't care who else wants to understand what I did. It's not about that anymore for me. It was at a point. Growing up as a people pleaser, where that's how you survive, sure, yeah, and own that until you are able to release that. That's just my recommendation. So where was I with that? Sorry. Just basically, showing people that you can go through anything and still awaken. I am proof of that, because I am not somebody who was like, I mean, I was a straight A student growing up. I was involved in so many things. I was, varsity of like all my sports and things. I was just somebody who was involved in a lot, and, had volunteer and, did student council and things like that. Just the stuff. A lot of it was to get out of the house, which, is something that, I realized obviously I was doing that through all my trauma therapy, to get away from all the negativity from my mom and my dad, and just that toxicity growing up. Because again, when you realize that you are an empath and you're an intuitive, you're a light worker, you're a highly sensitive person, when you understand all this, and that basically what you are is your light, you're chosen, and you've chosen to put yourself into this toxic environment because you wanted to see the opposite. You wanted to experience bliss after experiencing the opposite of bliss. And you chose the hardest path, is to do it by yourself without anybody helping you. So that you could see how strong you are. I felt this throughout my whole journey, because the shit that I've been through, I could not have thought about these things had they never happened to me. In fact, when they were happening to me, it was hard to believe it was happening. And if you are watching this still, if you know what I'm talking about. So I am at a point where I was, like I had mentioned, the DUI, and because of it, I had to do a little bit of jail time, which, I show you how you take, like things that are going to be like negative or hard to do, or, what you see as negative. And how you can transmute that into something positive. Like, I took my jail time and I used it as my healing time. It was like I did everything inside that, those cells and that space, that I would have done and that I am still doing to this day. And that's when I started to super become a student. At that point, I have always been, because I love learning, and that to me is super excitement and high vibrational in itself. So yeah, I was at a place then, after, I had, I think I had gotten, because I think the end of that part of that time takes me into one other home. Like, this was just like the universe kept throwing me karmic after karmic after karmic. So it was like I couldn't even catch my breath, and there was another one coming, and then there's another one. And they would trick me at first, like trick me in the way where I still, was trusting a little too soon. But it's when you're in those moments where it's like you really could use some help and support, and someone comes in, and you're still healing from learning how to trust people. You're like, you've been screwed a lot, and you're understanding you were just screwed a lot and lied to. And so you're in this space of, I'm trying, universe. Give me a minute, like I need to breathe. And you have the right to ask that, actually. And if you do, the universe does abide. But if you're asking, like, bring it on, the universe is going to bring it. And I think that's what had happened is I think I said bring it on, and I didn't know how to say stop. So it just kept piling on. I don't know. But so so I ended up, there was another person that I moved in that was this other crazy karmic. But during that time period, after I get out of jail, and I'm starting my probation for this DUI and this stupid other charge that was put on me, that was not something I did, but was because of the guy that conned me and scammed me, and because this is what they can do with your information, is sell it to somebody who then tries to do, or does not tries definitely does criminal things with your information, and many times they're getting busted. And if they have your information, now you have to disprove that that wasn't you. And if there's no cameras or something to visually prove this, that makes it even harder. Then it's now a 50-50. And that's what happened. There were actually 5 charges because of the guy that conned me that were attempted on my information. Like unemployment claims they tried to do in a state that I had lived in previous. Oh man. Oh, the tax stuff. So I have to always have like tax identification numbers, and just, you have to, it's just a mess. You have to contact all the credit bureaus and everything and put freezes on your credit. And, yeah. So out of the 5 times, I only got busted for 1. Not busted, meaning that like I couldn't disprove it. So I had to plea bargain, or I had to take a plea to it, because I was afraid of the jail time behind it and having a jury. I don't believe in the jury. I think the jury system is a joke. There's a really hilarious documentary about it, actually, that I recommend. It was actually kind of funny, but it was actually extremely hilarious, and that was its intention. If I think of it, or if anybody asks, I will put it in the comments, I suppose. But so yeah, anyways, sorry, drifting off there. So this is where my mind, knowing or thinking that I still have to, take my 3D jobs instead of trying to, work with what I had already learned. Well, I hadn't really yet learned anything. So for me at that stage, I really needed to have a 3D job to earn money. So I had already been over my career and what I went to school for, because it was a joke anyways, but I did get to do a lot of traveling, and so that was kind of fun and very cool when you're young. So getting to travel all over the world was great, right? For any of you who have done it. And so I'm sorry, we're going to pause for a minute. Okay, so anyways, one of the jobs I wanted to do was learn how to work on vehicles, because this was right after the moment where I had like 2 vehicles back to back, and bikes being messed with and torn apart to the point of not being able to use them anymore. And I knew I had a better chance of trying to learn how to stop them from messing with the vehicle if I could learn how to catch the issue right away, hear it, smell it, feel it, and then I could have another skill. Why not? And I wanted to go back to school for auto mechanics then, but they had screwed up my student loan distribution, and I didn't have the money at the time, obviously, at that time, to pay for schooling. So, and this is at a time where I could have been utilizing, I guess YouTube in the way that I've used it, and all the free coursework that I've gotten online through my healing too. Like I was not really, well, there's a thing, because of the con men hacking into my, all my electronics, phones, laptops, anything I had, I really detached myself and separated myself from electronics and technology for a hot minute. Like, well, 20, at least 3 years. Where I just I think I only kept like a flip phone up until, well, no, I had during those 3 years, that's when I had to switch into flip phones again because I was getting them so frequently because I couldn't afford keeping up on buying brand new, you know, whether at the time, this was before I started utilizing iPhones, but this was, yeah, during the Google years, and they were just so easily hacked into. Like, and once I realized that, because I attempted learning that for myself, areas in cybersecurity, but for me, it was just an area that doesn't naturally come to me in for just myself to teach me. That's one of those areas that it would be great to have somebody to just bounce my questions and thoughts off. And so I knew that I definitely needed schooling for that. But with auto mechanics, I thought, well, if I can't go back to school for that, let's go work at an auto parts store. So that's when I work at my first auto parts store, where I learned a lot. And I was able to meet mechanics that helped me work on like anytime they were working on a part on a vehicle, I was there. So I got to watch and experience almost every part down to kind of learning how to slightly understand how to put together an engine. And so that was awesome because that helped out a ton. I was able to save myself so much, so much money and so much stress. And you get that like, aha, like I got you. Like I'm actually a step ahead of you this time, bitch. And so that's what helps you raise your vibration. And that is what you need to do to raise your vibration above con men, scammers, gang stalkers, narcissists, low vibrational, anything. You need to raise your vibration. Think about it logically. Like if you are higher than them, they can't reach you. They can't go up. You can go down, but you're not going down. They can't go up though. They only can go up if you're down, and then they come up from your energy, right? So that's the end goal. And so that was my experience with con men, scammers, gang stalking, human trafficking, and narcissists, psychopaths. So understanding manipulators. So next, right after that, while I'm at that first auto parts store, the universe sends me, because at that time I was thinking, and I had my cats. I was down to 2 of my cats, and they were, I was trying to show people and use my cats once I started my healing as the way that I could love my child had I had a child or more, since I didn't get the chance to do that. And so I utilized that time with them in a very special way as well. Okay. So, but one of the things I had thought about was how they were making me feel so good. And I have always had a connection with animals. I love animals more than most humans. And so if you get it. So that's the thing though, is that I really said that I also would love to start working with animals. And how am I going to do that? Because it's a hard industry to get into. And even when you are able to get into it, you have to pretty much take the biggest pay cut and go down to levels that you maybe have never seen. And so it was miraculously right around the time that things are kind of getting weird in this space. And there's so much in between there that I could talk about, but it'll be communicated in other creative forms. So, while I'm at that auto parts store, the universe sends me a person from a kennel boarding vet hospital, all in one, in the town in the mountains that I wanted to live in. And I was already getting paid fairly low. I had to take a pretty big pay cut to start that kind of work. But I was working a lot, and I would just work and heal, work and heal, work and heal. And I was learning on the job. So I was in a constant state of high vibration, so that's what kind of was saving me during that time. This is before I'm spiritual. or have that understanding of that spiritual aspect that we should know, where you have to call judgment, and you have to set your safety and protection around yourself, and you really need to be daily on your divinity, all that. So this is during that pre-time of that. So this job, I'm gonna be paid like $2 less even. and but I take it because I'm like, yeah, I think I tried. Did I? Nope. I ended up quitting and leaving that crazy house that I was in to move up to this mountain town now. And this is where the start of my healing happens. There's one more move that I make to the healing home that I speak about in previous messages about the first 2 years of my healing, where I'm in solid healing time, beautiful flow state. Like, this is where the universe is speaking to me, and I am unaware that I remember thinking, wow, this is all happening, like, kind of just falling into place after being so freaking chaotic. And so that I talk about that time, and there is more that I'd like to talk about that I'll be breaking down, how, like, teaching more in depth of how I learned, how I evolved, how I awoke and healed on a mental and emotional level during that time frame. The next is going to be my physical and spiritual healing experience. And that is what I'm going to start on the next video, because this one was a half an hour and I feel really bad getting actually started into it. So I probably will put part 1 on this, and I'll put part 2 on the next, for any of you that have watched it this entire time through. And because I guess that was the prelude to just me expressing where I'm at, kind of just recapping on my timeline, because that's what I realized is my purpose. Is I am supposed to teach based off of what I've taught myself through my awakening, my healing, that has been, and only gets more and more like awesome. Like, you're like, whoa, that just happened, like, you know. um so anyways, I will have part 2 coming up next, and I'm gonna probably just start it here. And so thank you for watching up till now. I'll see you in part 2.